Well, hello, this is Denny with Isaiah 58 in His Service Ministries, and this is our Love Goes podcast. I am here with Kristine Hadeed, and she just touches my heart in a lot of different ways. She's very passionate and committed to her role as the associate organizer for ACTION Tulsa. It's a local nonprofit organization that teaches regular people a better way to do politics. And boy, do we need that now, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am from the DC metro area. I grew up mostly in Virginia. That's where most of my family is. My 10 siblings, all of them except for one, still live in Virginia. So I come from a pretty big family. And I moved to Tulsa in 2017 with Teach for America because, there was a lot going on at that time. But the big thing was I really wanted to learn about just education and the system and how to make a bigger impact in the community. That's always been something that has really driven me as a person. The desire to make positive change and social impact.
Right.
And so I didn't think I would be here for longer than a 2-year commitment when I made that move. I did not know what to expect.
I think everybody does that about Oklahoma. You either come here to stay a short time and leave, and then you're stuck here forever, or you're born here and you leave and you come back. That was me.
Yeah. Well, and it has an interesting hold on people,
Yeah.
Which I didn't expect, but was really pleasantly surprised. And long story short, I actually moved back to Virginia in 2019 for a brief period over the pandemic to help with a family crisis. And then I kind of did a small boomerang myself and came back in 2021. And now I'm deeply entrenched as a community organizer, working around organizing tenants and other different issues that we work on. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. There's other stuff I could go deeper into, but you tell me what sounds interesting.
Well, I definitely, talking about tenants and housing, that has been it's a crisis in our city. It's a crisis for a lot of people in our state. And so tell us a little bit about ACTION Tulsa and what your role is there and how you can get people to help in this situation.
Yeah, well, housing is important to me personally for a few different reasons. I've been a tenant before myself. As a young person, it's really hard to afford to buy a house, so
Yeah.
you kind of have to rent when you're getting on your feet. And I've been in situations where I could barely afford a place. I've had to couch surf. I've had to stay with family.
Yeah.
Even after being a college graduate, it can be rough just getting established. I also worked in property management for a few years and really enjoyed the experience, but also just became a little disillusioned by the profit-seeking drive that is embedded in a lot of housing business models.
Yes.
Which, I understand. There's a level of, revenue you have to produce to make it sustainable, and, corporations want to make a profit. But it's such an essential
Absolutely.
need. And lack of housing or unaffordable access to housing has such a destabilizing effect on people, families, and communities.
Right.
That really bothered me, just the insane profit-seeking motives. And so I had in my mind when I got out of property management that I would love at some point if there was a way that I could represent tenants. And I didn't think that would be possible because I didn't see that happening anywhere. And so I ended up getting involved with ACTION through volunteering with the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, another local
Right.
nonprofit that does a lot of good work.
Absolutely.
And one of their people, her name is Shada Brown. She was trained by the Industrial Areas Foundation as a community organizer. The IAF is the largest, oldest community organizing network in the United States. And she recommended that I look into ACTION, which is an IAF affiliate.
Okay.
And they were hiring for a part-time tenants organizer, which I didn't know what that would entail.
Yeah.
I didn't really have specific experience around it. But I interviewed for the job and got it. And it is, it's hard to explain in like a short elevator pitch what we do.
Yeah.
When we say we teach people a better way to do politics, that encompasses so much.
It really does.
But
So
it
can you
starts
break
with
it down in some
relationships.
pieces so that maybe we can capture it a little bit?
Yeah, it starts with relationships, which is kind of flips the paradigm for a lot of people. Politics starts with issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what sets us apart from most other political nonprofits and organizations is we're really about people first and foremost. And the issues that we work on arise from the conversations and the energy of the people that we're in relationship with. What do they want to take on? What can we work on together?
Right.
What are issues that have cross-cutting impacts that will bring people together instead of splinter us further apart?
Right.
So
Good stuff.
that political focus, but doing it in a nonpartisan way, that starts with hearing each other's stories, feeling each other's pain, building interpersonal bonds, face to face, not over social media.
Right.
And then together working to better understand these issues so that we are grounded in the same sense of reality and not just working from a sense of opinion or ideology that's often not reflective of how the world is actually working. Breaking down our biases and assumptions through listening to each other and learning, and then using that experience to find workable solutions that enough people can agree on that you can build the solidarity and power to actually make it happen is how we do things.
Yeah, you know, I still, one of the most impactful times that we've had here at Isaiah's is when you and Emily came and asked our people, you know, all of the family of Isaiah's about their living arrangements, how they lived, how they encountered things, and what they do during the course of their day and whatnot. And it was really important because they all said afterwards they really cared about us. Because you would ask questions, yes, but you would follow up, and you all maintained eye contact, and it meant a lot to our people. So it empowered them just having you here. Can you tell a little bit about exactly what you were doing that day?
Yeah, so my supervisor, Emily Bounds, and I came to do a house meeting, which is an organizing tool. A house meeting is like a small group conversation. And the purpose of it is to share stories about pressures that people are facing in the community and to identify specific things that might be emerge through the conversation that are really impacting people across lines of difference and that people are interested in building agency to do something about.
Yes.
And so that's what we did here. It was a really impactful house meeting for us as well, because I mean, the people that you work with here are really marginalized in our society. They're some of the ones who are not listened to at all. Some of them have mental health struggles and, you know, maybe criminal records. And so just to feel their humanity. And I mean, we sensed the appreciation, the way that folks engaged and how respectful they were of each other, how vulnerable, how much they cared. Like when I shared some of my story,
Yeah.
oh gosh, it was just really human. So I'm glad that it was a good experience for them too. It's really sad that it was such a rare thing for them to feel so hurt, though.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, you know, going to the doctor's offices or going to deal with, you know, DHS or anything like that to try to get services, it is a lot of times they're not listened to. They're more like a number and kind of push through some things, or they don't have the ability to go, I don't think this is what I want. This may be what I want. They're just more apt to go, whatever you say is fine with me. So it was an impactful thing for them and for us as well. We, you know, we're always looking forward to opportunities to partner with other places to be able to put them in situations like that they can experience things they otherwise wouldn't. So, so having you here meant a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, what came from that conversation really, I think, if I remember correctly, public transportation was like a big
time
issue.
Yeah.
And so we have been having conversations like that, both in small group house meetings and one-on-one conversations throughout the community for the past several months. That is my job. The essence, the focus of my job is to have lots of conversations in the community, because through that you start to gain a holistic understanding of what are the biggest pressures that people are facing.
Right.
And where can we do something specific about it?
Yep.
So public transportation is one of the biggest things I'm hearing from tenants. I mean, possibly even more than housing specifically.
Really?
I mean, they're both like pretty close and they both feed into each other is the thing.
Yeah.
But it's for sure something that we need to be thinking deeply about when it comes to figuring out how to like untangle this just systemic mess that converges in what we see as homelessness. So there will be more opportunities soon for folks here to kind of take the next steps in better understanding these issues and the policy implications at the city and state level, and what we need to do as constituents to build the power to make the changes that we want to see in those areas.
Yeah. You know, one of the things too, I know that when you you started your tenant association, and we were really fortunate to have that meeting here that you you kind of christened it.
Yeah.
But you also had some folks here that were able to get people enrolled so that they could be eligible to vote. And it's amazing to me how many of our folks don't vote, you know, that are marginalized, as you mentioned, that are, you know, have a variety of different physical, mental challenges, and don't feel like voting is important enough. What would you say to that?
To be honest, I think there's validity in their perspective and experience of that.
Yeah.
Because when you are not listened to and unheard, even in your day-to-day experience, and you don't see your vote making a difference in your day-to-day life, what other conclusion are you supposed to come to?
Right.
I mean, and given how difficult it is for them to even access basic needs, grocery stores, doctors, school, to expect someone to make the effort to come out to vote, possibly having to take time off work or pay for bus fare or Ubers, when you don't even really have faith that it's going to make a difference in your life.
Yeah.
I can understand where that kind of jadedness comes from. And that's why a big part of what we do with our approach to voter mobilization, I mean, voter registration is part of that, but there are so many registered voters who don't vote, and it's not even just the most vulnerable and marginalized.
Right.
So many people right now feel like their vote does not make a difference. And it really doesn't when we're not organized.
Yeah.
That is the piece that I think is missing. We don't have a shared agenda as constituents. We don't have clarity on what it is that we want candidates to do for us. We know the problems that we're dealing with, and we'd like for there to be someone who can just have a magic wand, and and that ends up being what happens. People promise that, this is what I'm going to do, and I care about this issue, and that's all they have to do to get our vote. But that's not specific or clear enough. These are really big problems that we're facing. And if we ourselves don't have an understanding of what it is we expect our elected officials to do, what are we holding them accountable to?
Right.
Not just what message do we want to hear, not just what lip service is going to inspire us, but what tangible changes do we need to see? What investments need to be made where? What policies need to be changed? What new bus stops need to be added? What buses need to be upgraded? Who needs to be hired? Like, these are very concrete things that most of us just simply don't understand. Partly because we're not taught it in school. Civic education is sorely lacking.
Right.
And partly because we're not in relationship with each other enough to have solidarity around a common agenda where we can have the power to make changes that will benefit all of us and be, conducive to the common good. So what I would say to people who feel disillusioned, I would say it makes sense because our votes are not working right now, but that doesn't mean we just abandon that pursuit altogether. We need to be working to organize and understand what will make our vote powerful. And we're actually in the process of teaching people that right now in organizing towards the local school board elections.
Okay.
So school board elections have become a very hotly contested political battleground for some reason.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dark money pouring in and lots of ideological differences around how schools should be run. So what we're doing in preparation for that, and turnout is historically dismal for school board elections. I'm talking like 2% of registered voters sometimes turn out in some of the districts that are up for election. So what we're doing is, and we have been for the past several months, is researching what is going on in our schools, talking to families, students, teachers, admin, district personnel. In order to understand the holistic nature of what's going on in education, you have to be talking to people at all levels of the system. And that's what we've been doing. And that actually started because back in October of last year, we had a 1,000 conversation campaign in the community to get an idea of what the biggest pressures are that families are experiencing. Housing was one of them. But the number one thing we were hearing was actually the intersection of mental health in public education. And
really?
Wow. That was number one. Teachers, families, students, there's a lot of pressure and mental health and safety concerns that emanate from that happening within our schools.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that that's across the board. I don't know if the last time you've been into a hospital or, a government building or whatnot, but there are signs posted now that said, if you need to respect the people that are here, and if your behavior becomes such that you could be volatile or you could be aggressive to someone, that you're going to be asked to leave. And I'm noticing that all across different facilities that are trying to not maybe instead of, I think we tend to want to be afraid when we tend to respond to the fear rather than respond to actually what's happening at the moment. Like you're talking about the schools, there's knee-jerk reactions about what they can teach and what they can't teach and that sort of thing. And when we go or we're going to ban books or, do whatever, that knee-jerk reaction it creates an environment to where people are just angry, yelling, and screaming, and nothing's accomplished. And I'm sure you see that. It's just everywhere anymore. So are you pouring into that as well?
Absolutely, pouring into like the
reactive
volatility. Oh
right.
yeah, we're so reactive as a culture right now.
Yeah.
And part of that is because a lot of things are coming at us.
Yeah.
But also we're not being proactive enough. That's what we're trying to do, and what we've been doing over the past several months is teach our institutional members how to be proactive and really coming together to do the research. And it takes time. It takes relationship building. It takes effort to truly understand what's going on with our book selection processes in libraries. What are librarians dealing with? What are teachers dealing with? Where are kids struggling? Where are families struggling? What pressures are admin dealing with? What's going on with our funding sources? And there's a lot of nuance to these issues, but they're concrete. I mean, and when you start to learn the specific issues, it just brings everyone back to reality. That's how we get away from being so reactive, is when you can have a better understanding of what is actually going on.
Yeah.
And have that shared understanding with other people. So many people who are reactive are just really don't understand how the system works, and we get
agreed
charged up by emotions.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a logical understanding of what the facts are.
Right. Yeah, I see that a lot too, where people just would rather yell and scream. I did a home visit the other day, and trying to help this woman, and the gentleman with him and I use that term loosely, he was drunk and, just combative, and just kept yelling and screaming because I was paying attention to her rather than him. And started slamming the door and cussing and everything. And, so many times I've seen this in public, and the response is just start yelling and screaming back. And then that's when things get out of hand and something happens. But I just, was just saying, hey, man, let me take care of her, and I'll get to you in just a minute. You just need to chill out, And then he got mad because I wasn't mad, But he mumbled as he walked off. And I just think that, we need to get back to a place to where we respect people, that we don't take everything that is said so personally, that there are so many things going on with so many people that if you stop and you listen and you kind of encourage them to just, to chill out, to calm down a little bit, a lot of times you can get to that heart of what's going on. And I wish there was a way we could have some public education on how to deal with those sort of things.
Well, have you always been able to deal with those kinds of outbursts so patiently, or what did you have to learn or experience in order to develop the self-awareness and patience to interact so calmly with people who are having outbursts like that?
Well, I mean, a lot of people tell me I have a calming effect, and you give eye contact, and just try to listen through it, even though they're being unruly and outrageous sometimes. But it's just over time, and you can turn, if you look at anything on social media or watch the news at all, you're going to see someone yelling and screaming, and then someone yells back, and we've seen that with encounters with law enforcement and a variety of different things. So, but people are not able to process all that's going on. And when people are afraid, they just tend to just explode, because it's easier, and they don't have to explain and sit down and talk about what's really bothering them, or what else is going on, that maybe their spouse has got cancer and they're dealing with that, or they just lost a job, or that sort of thing, and things build up to a point to where people have to break. And we were talking about that earlier, that there are so many people that are oppressed in so many different ways, and everybody's going to get to a place, and they're not going to want to be oppressed anymore. And their natural response sometimes is just to let it all out. And sometimes it's in really bad ways. But anyway, we're getting off track. But I really think that what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you're dealing with relationships, you're dealing with communication, you're dealing with trying to listen and understand where someone is coming from, that I think that approach and that way to make a difference in our city and our state and our country is to be able to actually believe that the person sitting next to you has value.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you were saying was relevant to how people snap and sometimes become like degraded versions of themselves when they're under so much stress.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've been there. I've snapped when I've been under immense amounts of pressure due to like crises outside of my control, and you just feel like you're drowning.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be in a space where life is stable enough that I can have a sense of clarity and calmness in how I engage with the world. And I think we have a situation where the people who are in a place where they're emotionally regulated enough that they can have that calming effect and be level-headed, they're simply not in relationship with the people who need that kind of presence.
Exactly.
We have all the emotionally regulated, financially stable people living in this part of town, wondering why all these emotionally dysregulated, impoverished, like people living in crisis can't just get it together and, fix their situations.
Right.
And so these people, just don't even feel the pain that other people are going through. If you hear these stories, if you see firsthand what the kinds of pressures and like unmanageable circumstances people are dealing with, you have no choice. I mean, it's like involuntary. You just have to act. You have to do something, whether it's intervening in the moment, you're starving, let me buy you something. Your child just died, like you need comfort, we need crisis mitigation. You're scared for your safety, we need to call the police or to get you a restraining order. I mean, there is such a disconnect of what people in crisis are dealing with and how hard it is for them to get out of that on their own. Because the people with the resources simply don't have a clue of what it's like.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is a really hard divide to bridge. And it makes me think about, honestly, like in the Bible, leprosy is a disease that gets frequently mentioned in the Bible. And I thought it was really interesting. I learned not super long ago, maybe a couple years ago, that the biggest thing about leprosy that makes it so dangerous is the way it attacks your nerves and diminishes your ability to feel pain. So people will end up like just picking up a pot of boiling water, not realizing how hot it is, and then your hands get scalded.
Right.
Or you'll, like they have examples of rats will literally like nibble off their limbs and they don't feel it because the nerve damage. And I mean, what an apt metaphor for what our society has become.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
Our body, what should be, especially for Christians, like a complete body of Christ, where we are all members of like the same unit.
Right.
We are so dismembered and disconnected that, you know, we can see maybe like when this arm is broken, but we don't feel the pain that would be necessary to actually compel us to act and do something about it.
Right. Gosh, so good. And so sad, you know, that the church is so disconnected in a lot of ways. When it comes to homelessness, when it comes to mental illness, when it comes to special needs, we just tend to pass it off because we don't want to actually intervene and get to a place to where we can meet some people that are different than us. And that's what Isaiah's is all about. It's meeting people that are different, meeting people that have some of the same dreams and hopes that, you know, your average churchgoer does, but is struggling with other ways. You know, the lack of support system, the lack of transportation, the lack of just having friends, you know, that don't want to take advantage. So I just love Action Tulsa, and I love that the whole approach is through relationships, is through listening, and then taking that information and going, okay, now what can we do to collectively take a step forward to make life a little bit better?
Yeah. It's so simple and seem like so intuitive once you start operating that way. It's
simple but not easy.
Simple but not easy. And the thing that makes it not easy is just our own, it's internal.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be easy. It should be much easier than going to war. It's easier than what the effects we're dealing with. I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
But I don't know, people were so apt to become complacent. It's really resisting
Apathetic.
our own base human nature, like that propensity for just like, I don't know, just for comfort and you know, fear of others, acting with the kind of love that would compel you to go out and be in community with people who society has rejected, people who you may have biases or stigmas about, people you might be downright afraid of.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes courage.
It does.
That takes effort. And it can be easier to just stay in your part of town, maybe send some money out there.
Yeah.
That doesn't build a relationship.
No, it doesn't. So what else would you like for people to know about Action Tulsa?
I mean, what we're doing requires a group effort.
Absolutely.
Myself and my supervisor, Emily, we are the only two paid organizers. We're a really lean, mean organization. Our power comes from our membership and the people who we train to do this work, to operate in this way. And it's something that's accessible to everyone. I mean, we are happy and willing and ready to teach people how to engage in this way of politics for the common good. It's going to take a mass effort of people thinking and behaving this way for us to make the change that we want to see in Tulsa and in our society at large. So anyone who's interested in learning more about that can sign up on our website to be part of our email newsletter, and we'll send out opportunities, look at our upcoming events, or just get off social media and go outside and talk to your neighbor. You can become part of the work by doing that too. That's part of it. But yeah, it's a long, slow process of rebuilding that social fabric that has just disintegrated so much at this point. Reassembling that body of Christ that Jesus talks about. It doesn't happen overnight on a social level, but we're each part of that process just by how we take the personal responsibility to do that work of listening and building relationships. And the process, when you do have the courage to do that, is really rewarding. And I know you know that, because that's the only thing that can keep you in this kind of work, when you're just witnessing pain and crisis day in and day out. And when the solution seems so far away, the thing that keeps, at least for me, the thing that keeps me in the work is just like, it is still just so rewarding to be connected with people, and to hear their stories and to experience that mutual sense of humanity. And I know for those who have the courage to do it, who might be scared right now, those who have the courage to do that, it's life-changing and it's healing.
It is.
Do you feel that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not enough. You know, I've got a social work friend of mine, and so every once in a while, it's, you know, you're helping someone, and sometimes they make it and sometimes they don't. And a lot of times making it is just a tiny step forward, you know, okay, so I didn't drink 2 days this week, you know, that's making that, hey, you only made it 1 day last week, so we're making effort. You're making progress. And to be able to rest in that with somebody and go, we're going to keep trying. You know, this morning we were talking about hope and how important it is that we think a lot of people that we encounter and a lot of people that you see on social media and you see in these little news blurbs are people who are miserable and who have little to no hope. And it's virtually impossible to continue without hope. And, you know, we believe that Jesus is that hope. And so, yes, so to be able to see some progress, to see some people with life change, to see people who are, you know, like Travis, we talked to Travis, you know, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he's just an amazing testimony of what family relationships, healing, and Jesus can do in the life of someone. So I just have so much respect for you and what you're doing and the way you're doing it. And so Isaiah's is at your disposal whenever you need anything. But share what's the best way to get in contact with you. What if somebody wants to have a conversation with you or says, you know, hey, tell me more about what you're doing and how I can make a difference? How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say go to our website, actiontulsa.org. If you sign up, one of myself or my supervisor will reach out and schedule a one-on-one meeting. Okay. That's what we do. That's how we build relationships. And we also have a voter commitment form that we're asking people to fill out so that they can be part of our organizing towards the local school board elections and then city council races and state elections too. So for people who are interested in being part of that experience and really learning firsthand a better way of how to do politics, those are two things that you can do.
Okay, that just reminded me, the people that are running for school board, is there a way to get information to learn about those folks?
So the filing deadline is in December. We don't know just yet everyone who's going to be running.
Okay.
But we will be having a public candidate accountability session on January 27th. So people can mark their calendars for that. We'll have more information on our website. But at that accountability session, we will be sharing specific issues related to education that we will have compiled based on our conversations with constituents, and asking those candidates to make commitments to work with us on those issues. And so the community will be able to see and hear what candidates say, and who is committed to working with us on that agenda. And we'll share more about what those specific issues are, but they're going to be grounded in reality. They're not going to be these lightning rod ideological things that divide us.
Good.
They're going to be stuff about how do we get the transportation funding to get our kids to school? How do we get better support for our teachers? How do we transform the learning process so that kids can read on grade level? I mean, stuff that everyone cares about.
Yeah.
That will keep us away from these extremist, divisive, just like cultures of, just divisive rhetoric that doesn't serve anyone in our community.
Yeah.
So that's how we handle candidate education, saying who's on board with us, not whose platform sounds the best.
Yeah.
That's getting back into just the lip service, whatever. No,
Right.
who's going to commit to working with us on these issues that we know are having an impact on families. So January 27th, anyone in the community who wants to witness that firsthand can be part of it. Just go sign up on our website for updates.
Okay. What about the mayor race? Are you going to do anything similar as far as education?
That's the plan, to do a similar accountability session for the mayor and city council seats as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else that you would like our listeners to hear?
Gosh, I'm just looking forward to getting to know and build relationships with people who are interested in joining in this kind of work. And thank you for having me on. I've really appreciated and been moved by just the work that you do and how committed you are to it, and just the people that you serve here and who work with you to serve others. They're really special, moving people and stories that I've been able to hear through my relationship with you and Isaiah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Today is October the 15th. So we record today. Next Sunday, the 22nd, Kristine's the podcast will be aired, published then, and then on the 29th, Pastor Michael Hugh will be here talking with me. So if you have not subscribed to our Love Goes podcast, it's Spotify for podcasters, and you just look up Love Goes, and it'll come right up. We've had some really good podcasts, Jeanette O'Hara and Travis Lackey. So if we'd love for you to like and subscribe to our channel. So this is Denny. This is our Love Goes podcast, and we can do more, we can do better together.